We all worship death. Only some of us worship death unknowingly, and some of us consciously worship death. You heard me. You heard it right. I'm going to break it down to you the way it was just given to me. Death is so powerful that it's one of the only things that forces us to review our life and the way we have behaved and treated someone else. It can be death of a family member, friend, just someone you knew. But in the moment that you hear about it, the halls of a mentee unfold. This is the consciousness where you become aware of how fragile life really is. And in that moment, no matter who it is, there's an automatic pause that happens inside of you. Why is that? So in old texts, truly ancient texts, when people would interact with frequency that was very much more intense, or higher, right, on the scale of frequency, it would almost cause the individual that is experiencing that moment from a lower perspective to pass out. So it's kind of like the angel. And, throughout the Bible, Joseph, he wrestled with the angel. But at first when he see him, like he almost dropped to his knees in fear, right? We hear this a lot, that these beings have this vibration that emits from them to where it just renders you speechless in that moment. And it's almost like time stops and freezes, and you freeze, literally. So this is what usually happens to most people when they hear about death. The other thing that death does is it helps us to set aside some of the stuff that we made a big deal that really didn't have to be. Death shows us that it isolates the areas that we made molds into molehills. Some so small, and we blew it up and made it so big. But when death happens, all of a sudden that argument that you had over who was gonna wash dishes becomes something you wish you wouldn't have had, because you begin to see it as it was a waste of time and energy when I could have been saying something loving to this person if I would have known they were going to die. See, putting death into the context, it reigns queen, it reigns goddess, it reigns principal, it reigns king over everything. It changes the context of the moment. So death is something that even the people who have some of the most power and the most wealthy groups of people on this planet, all of their profits came from what? Death. This is an ancient spiritual thing, an energy that should be reverenced. And many of us have been taught to fear it, to hate it, to avoid it at all costs, because we don't know the sacredness of death. So what happens to people who are trapped in the belief systems and conditioning of the 3D world about some of the things that I share on this channel, you become almost a slave to death. And you almost see death as the enemy to life. And so death is like, hey, I'm not the enemy to life. I know, some strange things happens when my event happens. And you think about things you never thought about before. You want to say things you never wanted to say before. You say things you've never said before. You start to feel guilty, maybe about some things that happened between you and the person that died. And whereas the day before, you felt completely righteous to be in whatever toxic vibration you were choosing to be in how you think about you and this person's relationship. And you avoided working it out. And I know then death comes along right after an argument and the person dies. And for a human being on this planet that is just enmeshed in the 3D programming, it's difficult for us to peer into the gift that death brought us of higher awareness. Even if the amplitude hurts and it make your nose bleed and your ears hurt because the altitude is so high, it's not a negative experience just because you feel negative things. Death is like, look, I'm not trying to ruin y'all party, but when y'all signed up for this, death was going to be a part of the rebirth process for you to be able to take a new assessment on life, reposition, and experience life again, hopefully at a different level, at a different vantage point. To be continually coming back to earth, having experiences because you're building yourself up, you're evolving your soul, your essence. You are merging with your oversoul and your I divine higher self and your lower self. You are bringing, like we are the microcosm of the macrocosm. We are bringing all of these many elements and energies into play and experience that we call life. But the same way toxic positivity with the love and light thing happened to us, for those of us awakening, and spiritual bypassing and not really allowing the transformation to take place inside of you. You know, now we're having these experiences and you're starting to rethink these things. So I want to share just a little bit more with you about death. I had no idea that this was going to be the topic for today. And I have been told by people that when you are running and spiritual business, it is very great to use some type of list or wheel for your content, right? So that you can make sure that you're vibing with the audience that you are attracting. And, you know, I'm trying to do that. But right now, I am not going to not channel. I'm not going to avoid channeling a message that I know could be transformative because it doesn't fit into those things that my business coaches have been telling me to do. Okay? When this happens and when you're getting this is something where I'm pushing against time and space itself and everything inside of me and what's telling me to do and allowing my intuition to completely open and communicate a message to you that bypasses a lot of the bullshit of the illusion that we call the 3D matrix. Okay? So, I wanted to get that out. I digress. So death is our ally. Death is not only our ally, but death is the only step to get into rebirth. So I'm not just talking about death of us leaving our physical bodies. That's death of certain ways of being with yourself. Death of certain ways of being with other people. Not having any boundaries. Not having a voice. It could be the death of the false self-mask that you have worn most of your life and finally like, you know what? I just want to be my authentic self. And if anybody, stops coming around me because of that, that's a positive thing, right? That's a positive thing. I'm no longer attracting things that I am ready to outgrow. And that's okay. It's a whole other journey outside of me for them, And with such a narcissistic society, we just think everything's about us, right? So it's like we don't even stop and think, what journey does this person have outside of me, So death of relationships, death of the way the relationships used to be, friendships, like that's just a scariest thing to us when we're still drenched in 3D enmeshment of that energy that keeps us in the sunken place. So, I wanted to share this message. I was so inspired to share this because I know that so many of us are dealing with death of loved ones. We're dealing with death of our careers. We're dealing with death of our businesses. We're dealing with death of our families, like with the family structure. Some of us can't do things mentally that we thought we could do because we're realizing we're mentally imbalanced. And so you don't want to continue to parent your children from a space of that mental imbalance. So now you're learning about stuff and learning about why being bipolar matters when you're raising children. You're learning about stuff, right? So we're experiencing this transformation, but if we have resistance to death of the things that have expired their service to us and ultimately to the world, we are upholding the very energy that we are feeling the pain of being in a relationship with it. We're feeling the toxicity of some of the relationships we've been in, and it might have been great for us at one point, but not anymore. So if your relationship with your own self is generally from a stance of being harsh and overly critical and just so hard on yourself, perfectionist type thinking, I'm not enough, for whatever reason or whatever's happening in my life, this is proof that I'm flawed and broken and something is wrong with me. For those of us that sometimes get stuck in that space, death don't seem like the thing that is going to benefit you. So you're not even really open to have a different experience. But once you open to have a new experience, then the universe reveals things to you that are ready to die. And you just release it and you just say, I've done the best that I could do. And I let go of this suffering that I feel because I'm trying to hold on to a flame, a stick that's on fire. And because I treasure this stick so much, I'm trying to hold on to it and it's burning me. And I'm in pain and suffering every day, but I just can't let it go. So by seeing the sacredness in death and actually thinking about some of the deaths in your own life that might have inspired you, helped you, you felt like you learned a lesson and it made you a better person. Find some benefits that you've seen from death. Maybe some relationships, like the end of relationships with my exes, those deaths, those endings, they were the foundation of my rebirth. I wouldn't have became the phoenix without the fire of those terribly toxic, narcissistic relationships. Me being the empath, feeding them. So, I'm grateful for death for that. Thank you. So think about death as a sentient being, just like we have learned about Mama Earth, about the cosmic mother, right? These are energies. And death is our ally. And for some of us, we know that it's something that we need to let go of, and it's just been hard to do it. So instead of just trying to let go of the things that need to be let go of, just release trying to control everything and let the endings know that are necessary for you to have what you want. I'm working on not judging you. If it takes for this to end, for whatever is best for me to come, I'm going to trust the universe is unfolding these things to help me, because life is happening for me, not to me. I'm a conscious being. I'm a soul here having this experience, and I'm doing the best I can right now with what I got. And because of that, I can smile and I feel some peace. Though I may be in the middle of chaos, I'm choosing to have gangster gratitude right now, because that has saved my life. That kind of gratitude where somebody on the outside looking in might be like, I don't see no reason to be grateful. I would hate being her. I would hate being him in his position. If you can be in your position and find something beautiful right where you are, you see, this is you respecting death, respecting the cycle of life, endings and beginnings. And so many of us want rebirth, but we're not willing to let things die. So you stay in a perpetual state of uncertainty and suffering that you think leads to more suffering, when actually the universe is like, everything we've been doing has been for you. But because you were on a drama triangle and you were stuck in the consciousness of a victim, you perceived everything as an attack. But we was actually just sending you some practice, because you got some great things you go do. You got to get to it. Come on. Come on. I know it was hard, but come on, because you are a miracle. You know, to have come this far, and we got other miracles waiting on you. So on the other side of whatever this thing happening is, to where it just make you wish you would die sometimes, you know, like it's some hidden treasure in this, and we want to show it to you. You don't have to do nothing but just take the path of least resistance right now and just let it unfold, and just speak beautiful things to yourself when you need to. Be your own best friend. Be your own parent that you never had. Just be loving to yourself and just let things fall where they may. And the more that you let go of control of the things that you can no longer control, the more you will regain clarity on what you can control and what is beneficial for you to invest your energy into. And that is the rebirth that happens once you put some respect on death's name. For those of you who are not new to this, you already know what I'm about to say. Man, your third eye has just been kissed. Peace, power, one love.